welcome to the Pig and Whistle Tales from Azeroth. As always, here at the Pig and Whistle Inn in Stormwind, I go through a variety of subjects with regards to World of Warcraft, so grab a bottle or a pint, sit back and enjoy. This episode, we'll be going over, well, I know it's a bit late, but Season of Discovery, the PTR, what is in the PTR, what you can expect in Season of Discovery, and giving my thoughts on it exactly. But as always, we have the weekly news. So we have Liskanoth, Zarkali Elders and Aerostar as your weekly world bosses. Aerostar and... God, I've forgotten the raid. Am I really that bad? It's Emerald Dream. Am I really that bad? Amirdrasil, the Dream's Hope. That's the raid. God. They are your fated or dreaming raids for the week. So any gear that you want to get, you go into this raid and kill that world boss, and it will scale up to the current season item level. You have done Dragonflight dungeons as your bonus event for the week. This just gives an extra piece of loot at the end of a dungeon. So if you're gearing via mythics, this is definitely the way to go about it this week. Warsong Scramble is your brawl for the week. This is simply 3 flags in each Gulch room, and you need 10 flags in total brought back to your base to win. It's very simple. If you run flags, you are going to be fine, and if you run them very fast, you're going to be more fine. Entangling, Bursting, and Tyrannical are your mythic affixes this week. Entangling, essentially, if you stand still long enough, there's going to be roots that just tangle you up. If you're a druid, shapeshift. That's simple. Everyone else needs to get dispelled or just run away, or you get slowed gradually, is the best way to put it. So make sure that you're constantly moving every now and again and don't get entangled. Bursting, when a mob dies, it essentially bursts, dealing a raid or a group-wide dot on everyone, and this stacks indefinitely. So either kill something very quickly, like a massive pack, and then get mass dispelled, or pop a big defensive cooldown if you get too many bursting stacks, or simply wait for the bursting to drop off of your character or finishing off the mob pack. And Tyrannical, the bosses and the minions that they summon have increased health and damage, so make sure you bring a talent build that can accommodate for that. So, let's get into it. This has been out for over a week now. I do need to say I'm a bit late on it, but I wanted to get more info on the PTR, because I believe it's been updated today as well. As of today is in this, like, the day that this episode's going live. So, the Phase 4 PTR for Season of Discovery will allow you to go up to level 60. This is classic level 60, this is the max level, and this will unlock, obviously, endgame dungeons, but there's new runes, there's new stuff. So, the testing focus that they wanted to test on will be runes and an initial round of class and rune adjustment. That's the main test. They've been doing that for about just over a week now, so hopefully there's more to test soon. Maybe they test the raids like this week, who knows. But please note that is not. We do not consider any class to be in its final state. You have to take that into an account, because it is a PTR, everything changes. And expect many classes to continue to change throughout the PTR process. We are eager for class feedback as we move forward towards the release of Phase 4. Please note that while new raid content, new rune discoveries, and most other new content, including new dungeon drops, will not be available, Sunken Temple, as well as all normal dungeons, will be available should you wish to test dungeon runs or the previous raids with the current round of class adjustments. Makes sense, because you need something to test it on. Now, the way you access the PTR is via any other way you access a PTR. You simply launch Classic Era PTR from your drop-down menu in Battle.net, and you'll find Seasonal tab on the realm selection, and you can find the Classic Seasonal PTR realm there. That's as simple as it is. Level 60 templates. So, these are in every single beta, but in order to access a level 60 character template, you need to simply create a new character on the Classic Seasonal PTR realm. When doing so, your newly created character will automatically be leveled to level 60 and have gear in their bags. Very simple. Level 60 templates are equipped with newly revamped dungeon or tier 0 sets. These characters have a selection of other gear supplies in their bag, including new dungeon upgrades or tier 0.5 sets. Please note that these sets and set bonuses are currently a work in progress, because they're changing out a lot of these set bonuses. We'll get to that in a bit. Additionally, all characters have access to the rune abilities up through level 60. as well as any abilities that are learned from skill books, including any former rune abilities, which may have been baseline in Phase 4. So they're giving you everything, essentially, to test out, which is really good. It's the same as every other PTR, whether it be Dragonflight, Cataclysm, Wrath, TBC, anything along them lines. Phase 4 vendors and test dummies. 3 new vendors are set up in Stormwind and Orgrimmar. For those who are not, familiar with beta or PTR testing, there are these giant Taurens and gnomes and goblins. And when I mean giant, the size of buildings. And these are vendors that you buy certain gears from or weapons, have a different purpose. So this is what they're referring to. They're set up in Stormwind and Orgrimmar, selling basic supplies such as consumables, enchants, and gear from Sunken Temple Raid, should players choose to utilise them. Target dummies may also be found just outside the main entrances of Stormwind and Orgrimmar. You may also test, I believe, a boss, which is Patchwork from Naxxramas, as Patchwork is very much a tank and spank fight. I believe you are more than welcome to test that out. You have to talk to someone to send you to the Searing Basin or something, and I believe that's where he resides currently. Here we go. Accessing the Searing Basin test raid. We've set up a test instance called the Searing Basin, which may be accessed by speaking to Gurthok in Stormwind and Orgrimmar to teleport to the instance. So you may enter the Searing Basin solo or with a raid up to 20 people. The boss test work is available for you to test. Please note that test work will require tanks and healers to engage. There you go. So yeah, test work, because Patchwork is just a tank and spank boss. It's that simple. Please note that these notes are not comprehensive or final, and we anticipate making additional adjustments to various classes throughout the PTR period. Please also note that many new spells are unfinished audio and visual effects at this current time. So here's a look at the new runes that people get. So to put it into context, runes are now going to be on your cloak. So I believe cloak is the only one left that you can apply a rune to. For those that obviously don't know in SOD, runes are something that you can find out in the world of Azeroth, and essentially you can learn them and equip them to a certain piece of gear. And this will give you a passive damage increase or healing increase, or a new spell or anything like that. And this is where they are putting their next one, Cloak. So for druids, you have improved Swipe. Adds the Swipe cat ability and causes Swipe in bear form to cause 100% additional damage and hit 3 additional targets. For healers, you have Tree of Life, transform into a Tree of Life. While active, reduce the mana cost of all heal over time effects and abilities by 20%, increasing healing received by all party members by 10%, and increasing the druid's spirit by 25%, as well as the armor by 200. Okay, very simple. For Starfall, for Boomkins you get Starfall. The druid calls down a rain up to 20 falling stars over 10 seconds, hitting enemies within 30 yards of the druid for arcane damage. 90-second cooldown cancelled by loss of control effects, mounting and shapeshifting. Okay, but this is the Wrath iteration of Starfall, so it will hit everything in your 30-yard radius. So, people who do not play Boomkin, please be aware that this will hit everything within 30 yards. Doesn't matter if you're in combat with it, everything, okay? Just keep that in mind. For hunters, you have improved volley. Increases volley damage by 3% of attack power each time it deals damage. Volley also has no longer a cooldown and no longer suffers pushback from damaging abilities against the hunter, and mana cost is reduced by 50%. Very simple. Resourcefulness reduces the mana cost of all traps by 100% and their cooldowns by 6 seconds. PvP chain. And hit and run, Raptor Strike increases movement speed by 15% for 4 seconds. Oh, that would allow melee weaving a lot easier. I just realised that. That allows melee weaving a lot like. For mages, you have Arcane Barrage, an instant attack dealing high arcane damage, 3-second cooldown. Overheat, Fire Blast is now castable while casting another spell, is unaffected by the global cooldown, and always crits. So this helps you get your hot streaks and your instant pyroblasts. Frozen Orb, the Mage launches a Frost Orb that damages nearby enemies and snares them. can trigger Fingers of Frost, simply giving Frost Mages a bit more oomph, essentially. Okay, very simple, very simple. For Paladins, Shield of Righteousness slams the target with your shield, causing holy damage on your block value, 6-second cooldown. A damage spell for a prop Paladin. This makes it so that you have more threat generation on single target, I would imagine. Vindicator, your Vindication talent now also decreases the target's attack power and increases the Paladin's strength, agility, and attack power by up to 20% for 10 seconds. That is a really good stat buff. That is a really, really good stat buff. I can't believe that. Righteous Vengeance. Your Judgment, Crusader Strike, Divine Storm, and Holy Shock abilities now deal an additional % damage of their damage over 8 seconds. That's really cool. If it's like 50% of their damage, then that's going to be worth it. If it's like 10, it's going to be a bit underwhelming, I'm not going to lie. Now we have Priest. So Priest has Binding Heal, a fast heal that heals a friendly target and the Priest. Deals a low amount of threat. This spell benefits from the triggers of all effects associated with Flash Heal. Oh, okay, that's really cool. That makes it actually useful then. Soul Warding. Pearlwood Shield has no cooldown, a reduced mana cost, and increased magnitude. Disc Priests. Gotta love them. Well, Vampiric Touch, a damage over time effect that grants 2% of damage dealt as mana returned to all party members. Throw a Shadow Priest in the Boomkin group. It's needed. It's amazing. Rogue, you have Blunderbuss. Fires a musket blast at enemies in a cone in front of the rogue, dealing physical damage. A cone in front. You actually have an AoE ability, rogues. Congratulations. Crimson Tempest. Oh my god, these are all AoE abilities I've just seen. Finishing moves that hit all nearby targets with a damage over time bleed based on the attack power, increased duration per combo point. And Fan of Knives, the rogue instantly throws out both weapons at the target, dealing area of effect damage. All AoE, because rogues needed AoE, didn't they? They are very good at single targets. So are warriors, so I wonder what warriors got. For Shaman, you get Storm, Earth and Fire. Isn't that a monk ability? That's a monk ability. Chain Lightning cooldown is reduced by 100%. Earthbind Totem immediately immobilizes all enemies when cast, and Flame Shock deals 60% increased periodic effect. That's really good. That's really, really good. Feral Spirits summon a pair of Temporal Spirit Wolf Guardians for 45 seconds. 3-minute cooldown. I wonder how good they'll be in raids, because pets take a lot of cleave damage, so I'm not too sure they'll be good. I'm not sure if they've changed that in SOD. They might have done. Coherence. Chain Heal effectiveness only reduced by 35% per jump. Chain Lightning effectiveness only reduced by up to 20% per jump. And each spell now jumps an additional time. That's not bad. That's not bad for healers. What it allows is healers to actually do some damage rather than just sit there spam Chain Heal in a raid, or spam Regrowth or Rejuve or whatever it was that Druid spammed, or Flash Heal. This is what should have been Classic. It should have tweaked it a tiny bit so that Classic wasn't stand there and spam Flash Heal or stand there and spam Frostbolt, all that shit. I think that they should have done these tweaks, but I'm glad that they're doing them in Season of Discovery. I just wish more people would actually play Season of Discovery to test this out, because I think that these are very good, and I think that these should have been on Classic Era Realms, I'm not going to lie. Like, not all the runes, but very small tweaks that could have at least helped, people do more damage or a different rotation. But that's my opinion. For Warlocks, you have Decimation. Shadow Bolt, Shadow Cleave, Incinerate, and Soulfire damage on targets below 35% now cause your next Soulfire to not cost a Soul Shard and cast 1.5 seconds faster. 10-second duration. Okay, so it's kind of like an execute phase, not bad. Mark of Chaos. Your Shadow Burn causes your next single target spell or ability to have a 100% crit chance. That's kind of cool, but kind of underwhelming, I'm not going to lie. Infernal Armor. For the next 10 seconds, all non-physical damage is reduced by a percentage of your damage reduced from armor. That's a defensive cooldown. Oh, that makes sense. There's Warlock tanks in Season of Discovery. So, all physical damage is reduced by 5%. Oh, okay, so this is a magical damage, like defensive ability. So you have, say, 40% armor, yeah, like, or damage reduction, physical damage reduction. You pop this, and suddenly you get, for 10 seconds, 10 magical damage reduction. Okay? That's really, really cool. It's based off of your armor, and I think that's a really cool way of doing a defensive, in my honest opinion. I think that's very, very good. And finally, for warlocks. Nope, for warriors, sorry. Fresh meat. Damaging a target with bloodthirst has a chance to enrage you while activating abilities which require being enraged and cause you to deal 10% increased damage for 12 seconds. 100% chance to proc on the first bloodthirst hit against a target. 10% chance for subsequent hits against the same target. That seems crazy, I'm not going to lie. Because bloodthirst is a very quick cooldown. I don't know. It depends on how lucky you get with RNG, because 10% increased damage on the class that was so good at single target in Classic, we'll see. Sudden Death. Your melee crits have a chance to activate Sudden Death for 10 seconds. While Sudden Death is active, you may use Execute on any target, and you will always have 10 rage remaining after using Execute. That's really good. Shockwave. Cone attack that deals physical damage and stuns all affected enemies for 4 seconds. Requires a shield and defensive stance, 60-second cooldown. This is just an AoE attack for prot warriors, because they were probably complaining that everything else is better than them tanking now. You know, it is what it is. But yeah, they're really good runes. They sound really good. And you can obviously have a lot of combos with other runes that have been, you know, put into the game previously, which is really, really good. I think that with SOD, they've done really well with the runes. I would like to see more wacky and really out there runes, kind of like the Infernal Armor for Warlocks, where it isn't just taken from an expansion later on in WoW's history. It's just something new, you know. And I think that's very, very cool, and something that should be looked into a lot more, in my honest opinion, with these runes. But I think that they're looking very good. I think that there's going to be a lot of synergy with older runes, and I think that people testing them out are definitely going to have a lot of testing to do to see which runes pair well with which, and where's the best sort of synergy with all of them. Because as a community, we mid-max everything. It's really bad that we mid-max everything. We can't just play the game to play the game and enjoy and piss around and, you know, all of that. We mid-max it as a community. So people will find out which runes work best with which. It is what it is. But moving on, we do have a couple other things to talk about with the PTR. Now, this one is very, very cool. These are spoilers, by the way, so please, if you are not wanting spoilers, then you might want to stop now. But they are looking at doing upgrading the legendaries in Classic and potentially adding more. So, with the current legendary, Sulphurous now has attack power on it for druids, and the effect of it has changed a little bit to allow a bit more flexibility in who might get it. Therefore, it benefits everyone, not just rep paladins mainly, and then two-handed warriors and stuff. But it will benefit druids. It will benefit, you know, warriors a lot more. It will benefit everyone that can use it. They have yet to say about an Thunder Fury if that's going to be changed, because Thunder Fury has a very good ability anyway for those that can use it, such as paladins, warriors, rogues. It has a very good ability. So, you know, it very much depends on if they're changing that. I don't think they will, though. I think they might tweak it very slightly, if anything, but the ability on it is very, very good still. But the big thing is that they have data mined something relating. Well, I'm not going to say what it's relating to, but listen to this: placeholder Ashbringer quest item 1. So that's pretty cool. For those that don't know, Ashbringer, you can get a corrupted Ashbringer in Naxxramas, the final raid of Classic World of Warcraft. Okay. Now, everyone speculated that you could purify the Ashbringer back in 2004, 2005, and everyone did everything to figure out what you could do to purify this corrupted Ashbringer. People fished for hours and days upon end. People went to remote locations and did certain things. They talked to certain NPCs. They probably gave certain NPCs like a pat on the head, a dance or whatever. They did everything that they could. So, to have a placeholder Ashbringer quest item, with the tooltip that reads, totally real, not fake quest starter item for Ashbringer quest. Super duper real, totally not a joke. Okay. Obviously, it's very interesting for several reasons, as it has existed in the database for so long, the Ashbringer. And the Ashbringer, if you were to hover over it, it just does damage. It does 30 to 50 holy damage, and it just blasts the target for 700 fire damage. Okay? That's all it does. There's no stats on it, there's no nothing. And that has been in the game since 2004, but it was never, ever, to this day, released in retail or any sort of classic or anything like that. But they are changing this. What is it? It is associated with the as of yet unused quest Good and Evil, essentially. The placeholder item above essentially is just saying that, Blizzard are looking into giving you an Ashbringer in Season of Discovery, okay? Which is really, really cool. And that they are potentially updating Scarlet Monastery for Season of Discovery. So this could probably correlate with the Ashbringer, as the Ashbringer is the High Lord, or the Scarlet High Lord's blade. It's just really cool. As well as that, they've also data mined an axe. Now, this axe is something that is a bit different, but people are speculated that it is the Axe of Cenarius. Now, for those that don't know, the Axe of Cenarius is wielded by Broxigar, and Broxigar is a very intriguing character. He is the only character in lore to have wounded Sargeras, and Sargeras is the one that leads the Burning Legion against us as players and our world, I think twice, in Burning Crusade and Legion, and we defeat him in Legion, essentially, or we imprison him in Legion. But Broxigar is the only one to actually wound him, a titan of the cosmos, essentially, and this is the axe that he did it with. So they've data mined an axe, but they don't exactly know exactly what the axe is. This is just speculation, which is really, really cool. Well, now, we obviously have tier set changes for Season of Discovery. Now, these tier set changes, because in Molten Core, Druids had one tier, okay? And this tier was basically very shit. It was for your Thorns damage, and it was for your Trank, essentially. It was for healers, okay? It forced people who wanted to get the tier set to go healer, essentially, for Druids. But now they've split it. So, for balanced Druids, you have, I'm seeing what has changed. Okay, all of them change. Okay, so damage dealt by Thorns increased by 100% and duration increased by 200%. You have, for 4 set, increased the chance to hit with spells and attacks by 3%. That's a really good 4 set bonus. And the 6 set is reduces Starfall cooldown by 50%. That's really, really impactful. For Feral, your Fairy Fire and Fairy Fire Feral also increase the chance of all attacks to hit by that target by 1%. Periodic damage from Rake and Rip can now critically hit. Your Rip and Ferocious Bite have a 20% chance per combo point spent to refresh the duration of Savage Roar back to its initial value. Again, really, really good. For Tank Druids, you may cast Rebirth and Innovate while in Bear form and Dire Bear form. That's really group wide and very impactful. Reduce the cooldown of Enrage by 30 seconds and no longer reduces your armor. Bear form and Dire Bear form increase all threat you generate by an additional 20%. And Cower now removes all your threat against the target, but has a 20% or 20-second longer cooldown. That seems really weird. Now removes all your threat against the target. Why would you ever want to use that? I'm trying to think, why would you ever use that in a boss fight if you're a bear tank? I don't know. For Resto Druids, when you cast Innovate on another player, it also casts on you. Casting your Healing Touch or Nourish spell gives you 25% chance to gain mana, equal to 35% of the base cost of the spell. That's really, really good. Reduce the cooldown of your Trank by 100%, increase its healing by 100%. That's really, really cool. So that's kind of like the OG 6 set bonus. that you got in Molten Core, which every druid had to take. But obviously they split all of these now. So for hunters, you have a ranged hunter set and a melee hunter set. You generate 100% more threat from using distracting shot for 8 seconds afterwards. Kind of meh. While tracking a creature type, you deal 3% increased damage to that creature. That's cool. Your next shot ability within 10 seconds after aim shot deals 10% more damage. Very standard. Okay? For melee hunters, your Mongoose Bite also reduces the target's chance to dodge by 1%, increases your chance to hit by 1%. While tracking a creature type, you deal 3% more damage to that creature type. Makes sense again. And your Mongoose Bite also activates for 5 seconds whenever your target parries or blocks, or when your melee's attack miss. That's really, really good, because your Mongoose only procs off of you dodging, if I'm not mistaken. For DPS Mage, you are immune to all damage while channeling Evocation. Oh my fucking god. Oh my god, that 2 set is insanely good. That caught me off guard. That is so good. Okay, that's an immunity. Oh my god, I wish I had that when I was ranking back in PvP, like in Classic. That would have been amazing. You gain 1% increased damage for 15 seconds each time you cast a spell from a different school of magic. That's kind of cool. Does that stack indefinitely? That's kind of cool. Mage Armor increases your mana regen while casting by an additional 15%. Molten Armor increases your spell damage and healing by 18%. Ice Armor grants 20% increased chance to trigger Fingers of Frost. Really, really good. For Healer Mage, your Temporal Beacon lasts 20% longer. Increases all chromatic healing you deal by 10%. Each time you heal a target with regeneration, the remaining cooldown of rewind time is reduced by 1 second. Very simple. For Holy Paladin, you increase the chance your allies trigger your Judgment of Light or Judgment of Wisdom. Increase the critical strike chance with spells and attacks by 2%. Whenever your Flash of Light, Holy Light, or Beacon of Light heal a target to full health, you will also heal all members of their party for a certain amount of health. That's really, really good. So Paladins actually have an AoE heal technically. Your Judgment of Light and Judgment of Wisdom now also grant the effects of Judgment of the Crusader. Okay. Increase your critical strike chance with spells and attacks by 2%. Your Seal Command, Seal of Righteousness, and Seal of Martyrdom now persist for 6 seconds after you cast another seal, or until you cast a third seal. Your Judgment can now trigger multiple seals if active. I'm not too familiar with Rets in Classic. All I knew is that they were shit back in Classic, and I approve to back that up, by the way. So you'd have to tell me if this is good Ret Paladins, but I'm not too sure. For Tank Paladins, increase your block value by your shield by 30. Heals for 200 health when you block, can only heal once every few seconds. Holy Shield no longer has charges and instead always lasts its full duration. In addition, its damage is increased by 200% of your shield block value. That's really strong. That is really, really strong. That's impressive how good that is. For Priests, you have healing. Reduce cast time on your Flash Heal and Greater Heal by 0.1 seconds. Increase your critical strike chance with spells and attacks by 2%. And increase your critical strike chance of Prayer of Mending and Circle of Healing by 25%. Just simple, healing or crit chance and casting time. Very simple. For DPS Priests, you may cast Flash Heal while in shadow form. This is really, really effective. Increase your critical strike chance with spells and attacks by 2%. And Mind Blast critical strike chance reduce the duration of your next Mind Flay by 50% while increasing its total damage by 100%. That's really, really good. So you're just kind of fishing for crits, essentially, is the best way to go about it. For DPS Rogues, you have... okay, I forget that there's a tank rogue. Feint also grants avoidance for 6 seconds, reducing all damage taken from area of effect damage from non-players by 50%. Increase your critical strike damage of your poisons by 100%. And your finishing moves have a 5% chance per combo point to make your next ability cost no energy. That's pretty good. For tanks, you have While just a flesh wound and blade dance are active, Fan of Knives costs 50% less energy and generates 100% increased threat. Very good AoE tanking there. Vanish now reduces all magical damage you take by 50% for its duration, but it no longer grants stealth or breaks movement impairing effects. So just a tank, damage reduction essentially. And your finishing moves now have a 20% chance per combo point to make you take 50% less physical damage from the next melee attack that hits you in 10 seconds. That's really good. So just passive tank. You have, for healer shamans, the radius of your totems that affect friendly targets is increased by 240 yards. Makes sense. After casting your healing wave, lesser healing wave, or riptide, gives you a 25% chance to gain mana equal to 35% of your base cast spell. This is very good because it's just a mana regeneration. And your healing spells now jump to an additional nearby target. Each jump reduces the effectiveness of the heal by 80%, and the spell will jump up to 2 additional targets. Reduces its effectiveness of the heal by 80. That seems overtuned, because you're going to get to a point where it heals no one for nothing. But oh well. Melee DPS shamans. The radius of your totem. All of these. Okay, apart from tank shamans. The radius of your totem is up to 40 yards. Increase your critical strike chance with spells and attacks by 2%. And your flurry talent now grants an additional 10% increase in your attack speed. Very nice. This just means that you attack faster and, you sort of do more damage essentially. For ranged DPS shamans, the radius of your totems has gone up to 40 yards. Your lightning bolt crits have a 35% chance to reset the cooldown of your lava burst and chain lightning. Make the next lava burst, chain heal, chain lightning in 10 seconds instant. Very, very good. Your lava burst now also refreshes the duration of flame shock on your target back to 12 seconds. Very, very effective. This keeps your dots rolling, means you don't have to micromanage your flame shock essentially. For tank shamans, increase your attack speed by 30% for the next 3 swings after you parry, dodge, or block. Your parries and dodges also activate your shield mastery rune ability. Your stone skin totem now reduces physical damage taken by 5%, and your wind wall totem also reduces magical damage taken by 5%. So just straight up damage reductions and more damage there for shamans. Now we move into the warlocks. You only have DPS warlocks, sadly. Actually, there's only one warlock set here. They haven't done the tank warlock set yet. So your life tap generates 50% more mana and 100% less threat. The fact that it generated threat is kind of funny. Oh no, is this the tank one? Increase the critical strike chance with your spells and attacks by 2%. Your Nightfall talent has a 4% chance to trigger. Your Immolate periodic damage has a chance to grant Fire Trance, reducing the cast time of your next Incinerate or Immolate by 10%. Okay, so what you can do actually is Immolate a target, and then if you get an instant proc, you Immolate another target, therefore you get more chance at a proc, and then you Immolate another, Immolate another, Immolate. Okay, so you can go about the dotting route with that set. That's really cool. Sadly, there is no tank set, from what I believe, so this is simply all you have at the moment, Warlocks. For DPS warriors, you gain 10 rage when you change stances. For 5 seconds after leaving a stance, you can use abilities requiring that stance as you were still in it. And for 10 seconds after activating a stance, you gain the additional benefit. Battle stance / gladiator stance increases 10% increased damage done. Berserker stance, 10% increased crit strike chance. And defensive, 10% reduced physical damage taken. Very nice. It allows stance dancing a lot more, which is really, really cool. For tank warriors, increase your block value of your shield by 30. You gain 1 extra rage every time you take any damage or deal auto attack damage. Okay. Increase all threat you generate in defensive stance by an additional 10%. Increases all damage you deal in gladiator stance by 4%. Okay, very cool, very standard. Just some damage increases there. All in all, these set bonuses are looking very good. And what they're doing with the set bonuses is very impressive, and I hope that they do this for later raids that haven't been released. Karazhan Crypts for one, I can't wait to see what they come up with. They have complete freedom with Karazhan Crypts, essentially, and they can make tier sets anything that they want. They can put whatever bosses they want, mechanics they want, and they can base it around the runes, the abilities, the everything that is new in Season of Discovery. but I think they're doing a really good job. It's just sad that it was kind of left alone in Phase 3 to die, but hopefully we'll see some sort of resurgence on Season of Discovery. I think it's well worth watching the raids for Season of Discovery. I think it's going to be very cool, but, you know, only time will tell if it's going to be a winner, really, in Phase 4 of Season of Discovery. But that is where I will end this episode for today. Thank you all very much for listening. As always, do check out all of the socials down below. Constant stuff happening over there. But thank you all very much once again, and go with Valor, friend. Goodbye all.